Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast and InsideTheBirds.com set to join us here. According to Josina Anderson, it looks like Doug Nussmeier will be the new Saints offensive coordinator. We'll get Adam's quick thoughts on that. Plus, what replacements are available if the Eagles lose some key free agents, and how does the team, I should say, view their potential in-house replacements? We'll get into some of that right now with Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. But it looks like Doug Nussmeier, the quarterback's coach, Adam, will be heading to New Orleans to join Kellen Moore out there. And, you know, sometimes these position coaches are kind of faceless, nameless guys, but Doug Nussmeier is a well-respected veteran coach. Yeah, so, look, Mike, if this didn't happen, I would have been like, there would have been like breaking news if it didn't happen. We've been talking about this for 6 weeks. We actually first put this out there on one of our shows before the playoffs started. We were just kind of talking about, we were looking for different stuff to talk about other than who the Eagles' opponent would be. So we just talked about, okay, what do we expect if Kellen Moore gets the Saints job? We know Doug Nussmeier's this guy. He'll be his non-play calling offensive coordinator. That's the way we expect it. Now, Mike, here's the thing we don't know. I had a coach yesterday call me. He says, hey, who's replacing Nussmeier as the quarterback's coach? I said, that's a great question because we're expecting, the two things we were expecting is that Nussmeier would leave with Kellen Moore and Kevin Patullo will be promoted from the passing game coordinator role to the offensive coordinator role. But we don't know who the quarterback coach would be. So if you go through the list, Mike, there's really nobody left, unless Sirianni wanted to be it. I don't know that that's been discussed. But so right now, Mike, the Eagles are down a coach. There's no question they are down a coach. It's just a matter of do they hire a quarterback coach from outside the team? We have to see. That one we're not sure about. I'm not going to lie to you. That one we don't know yet. We've known about Nussmeier for 6-8 weeks. That happened like we expected. We're expecting Patullo to be the coordinator. Now, it's not a lock, Mike. It's not a lock. But he's the clear favorite, has been for a long, long time. And you know about his relationship with Nick Sirianni. Yeah, so if Nussmeier goes to be the coordinator, which it looks like is going to happen, that means Patullo most likely will be elevated here in Philadelphia. And as you said, then they need a quarterback coach. It looks like Kellen Moore, he stuck with Scott Tolzien, who was a guy that he knew from Dallas. So he interviewed 4 different Eagles position coaches. So at least it looks like Philadelphia will not be getting massive, guys lost from this staff like they had a couple of years ago, where you're replacing multiple guys. That's where you feel the pain a little bit. Yeah, and by the way, he was actually we put this out in our show exclusively. I don't think this was out. So he wanted Jeremiah Washburn. Remember Jim Washburn, the former Eagles offensive line coach. We were told that Kellen wanted Jeremiah to be his offensive line coach, but Washburn declined to even talk to him about it because he did not want to leave. He's got family considerations to consider, so he decided that he was not going to consider that job. So that would have been another guy. But I'm sure he would have gotten it. So they hired somebody else. Christian Parker was also on our list for them to talk to, and they did that. But we're expecting Brandon Staley to get that job. But yeah, it is interesting now that the full staff is not done yet, but he's close. Kellen Moore's almost done it. They may not lose anybody, which would be a great thing. Other than Doug Nussmeier, that'd be a great thing if you're the Eagles because they knew about Nussmeier. They knew that was going to happen. By the way, the Eagles could have blocked that if they wanted to, if it's not for a promotion. If he's not calling plays, which he's not, they could actually block it because on the form that when you turn the slip in, you have to put in exactly what the coach's responsibilities are. A general manager told me that, and a club can contest it if they wanted to. But the Eagles are not going to do that. They have a very good relationship with Kellen. Now, I could tell you that over the years, remember Jeffrey Lurie blocked John DeFilippo for interviewing for the Jets offense coordinator job back in, I think, 2017? So, yeah, I mean, the Eagles have blocked coaches before, but not in this case. All right, Adam, let's see some free agent stuff here, some replacements on the offensive side. There's a couple of interesting names that are free agents. One is Kenny Gainwell. 2 is Mekhi Becton. Both of those guys are free to sign with anybody they want. But there is a third guy whose name I find interesting, is Dallas Goedert. You know, you get to the point where Goddard's been hurt a lot. They have won games without him. So is he a guy that the team could look to move on from or try to do something with? Those three guys are three offensive players who could be elsewhere this offseason.
All right, so let's talk about Gainwell. Gainwell is by far, as we've talked about now for almost a year now, he's the best pass protector. They know that. The coaches know that. Everybody knows that who really knows football. Gainwell's a terrific pass protector. Saquon did have that great block in the Super Bowl, which helped protect Hurts for the touchdown pass, but Gainwell's the best pass protector. That would be an issue if he left. Will Shipley is more explosive than Gainwell. That's not up to debate, but Shipley does not pass protect well. He's not as physical as Gainwell, Mike. That would be an issue. So I know the Eagles would like to have Gainwell back. I mean, you're looking at a $2 to $3 million a season player, and he's a backup running back, so you don't pay them. He's a really good football player. He's been in good story development. As reported at the time exclusively when he was drafted, the coaching staff was involved in that one. Sirianni specifically really wanted him, so you have to take a look at that. So I don't know, Mike. I know he's a backup and people don't usually care. We need to understand if he does leave, they're going to have to replace him. It's not going to be easy because he protects so well. And who knew he was this physical? We had Ryan Silverfield on several times, his former head coach at Memphis. He's still there, Silverfield, and he coached Kenny, and he thought he would not be the back that he's become. And that's not a negative. He's just not Eagles don't use him the same way they used him at Memphis. It's interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned Shipley. He was a guy that's going to be a second-year player next year, where Gainwell was a couple of years ago. It's funny because a lot of people a couple of years ago were like, this Gainwell, they keep giving him carries. What are they doing? They keep doing too much with him. But he has kind of evolved now. As that player, we'll see as, hey, you know this, Adam. When you win the Super Bowl, your value goes up a tick a little bit more. Somebody just wants to get their hands on him. What about Becton? This one seems pretty obvious that they have Tyler Steen here, but do they just think that Becton is the right piece, or would they be ready to move on to Tyler Steen or someplace else?
Yeah, they have a very good relationship with the agency that represents him. So they look. It won't be easy because Mackay played really well. He played right tackle and left tackle for the Jets and shocked us when Jeff Mosher had that great report that got panned. When Jeff said, "Listen, they're going to try him at guard," and some reporters locally thought Jeff was out of his mind, but he turned out to be right about that. That was a great scoop. And the bottom line is, Mackay played really well at right guard. Who knew? Other than Jeff Stoutland, you got to give Stoutland credit. I was shocked at that one. So Mackay's helped his value. But Mike, he's got the one bad knee, where's that super bulky brace. Medicals are always a concern when you get into free agency. Every team shares medical information. They have it. They know. And that's going to be a problem for Mackay. So we wish him well. He's still a young guy. Great story. You saw his emotions in the Super Bowl, I'm sure. And here's the thing: is I keep telling people, the Eagles have supreme leverage here. They have his replacement, and that honestly, they when you look at this situation here at right guard, you have to understand, Mike. Tyler Steen was drafted to be this position to play right guard. He was a tackle in college. Even if you brought Becton back, the Eagles don't want to give up on Tyler Steen, so it's hard to justify $10 million a year or more. It's just hard to do that. That's why the smart money's on Tyler Steen here. But listen, if Becton comes in lower than they expected, that changes it. But right now, the smart money is on Steen to replace him.
All right, I want to get your thoughts on Goddard because we brought him up the other day as, he's been hurt. They played well without him. I don't want to say you don't notice when he's not there. He obviously does things that Calcaterra and the others don't do, but they did continue to win without him. Give us some thoughts on his contract and the potential of the Eagles and Dallas Goedert moving on from each other.
Yeah, he just turned 30 years old on January 3rd. That does matter. We know about his injury history. We know he's a terrific football player. When he's in the lineup, he's a difference maker. I know they've been able to, this season in particular, they were able to, what were they, 7-1? I think Jeff had that note. They were 7-1 without him, but they know how good they are with him. It's a tough deal. It's hard to find any comparables comps. It's hard because of his age, his injury history. He's on the final year of his deal. He's owed $15.5 million in total cash. 80% of it's tied up in a option bonus, which becomes due, I believe, in March. sometime in March. So they have a decision to make. This is a tough one, Mike. They don't have a replacement. When you're picking 32nd, you could do whatever you really want. Now, edge rusher is the biggest need, but so is tight end. Tight end's right up there, doesn't block well enough, and that's the problem. So this is fascinating, Mike. We'll learn more when we're at the Combine next week, but this one, and good thing is this is not going to be contentious. They have a great run. More deals with the company that they're dealing with Goddard's contract than probably anyone over Howie's tenure as general manager. So it won't be a problem. It's not going to figure it out, but the Eagles really need a position.
All right, let's flip over to the defense because they have three key decisions. Milton Williams, JoshSweat, Zach Bond, the biggest priority of the three. But break down the replacements if they go.
All right, I wouldn't worry about priority, Mike. Money determines priority. The best player is Milton Williams. That's not generally the way it's probably going to go here. It's going to be who's the most likely to they could bring back of the three and maybe hopefully two. Milton Williams, Mike, I've done the comps on this. I gave it to our Patreon people 2 weeks ago. The money, it starts at $21 million. That's the floor. Here, I'm going to give you, Mike, we're talking about this. I'll give you a little cliff note. I'm going to give you a little bit of a scoop here. We're talking about this tomorrow's show. Jeff Mosher and I, we're going to talk about this. I'm going to give you a couple contracts here just to give you an idea what the floor is. Javon Hargrave, $21 million, ironically. Christian Barmore, who's from Philadelphia with the Patriots, $21 million. Kenny Clark, $21.3 million. Dexter Lawrence. Now, I know Lawrence is a better football player. The max probably here is it's probably going to be $22.5 million to $23. I don't see him getting more than that. But I could tell you, I've talked to two AFC teams that are really interested. I know they're going to be involved. There are going to be a number of teams involved. Mike, the reason why Williams is going to get a monster deal is he's gotten better every single year. Now, I do want to mention one contract. Ironically, Lee McNeil. We all know about what happened with Lee McNeil. That Tom Donahoe, who was a senior assistant for Howie Roseman, he won in McNeil. Howie won in Milton Williams. Ironically, Lee McNeil is getting $24.25 million a year. I don't see Milton getting that contract. I'd be surprised if he did. Doesn't mean he can't, by the way. When you have leverage, if it got 6 teams in it, you never know. Maybe he gets it, but the more realistic numbers are somewhere between 22 and 23 million. That's where it's going. He's not getting less than 21 million. The other stuff that's out there, they're clearly not talking NFL teams, bottom line.
Yeah, I know, a lot of people look at Milton Williams as a guy who could be, I don't want to say a huge overpay because I think he's a pretty talented, and because of his age, that's the big thing. He's a free agent in the prime of his career as opposed to that 30-year-old when a lot of guys hit free agency. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is, Mike. There's no question about it. Now Zach Bond, $13.66 million is going to be the Patrick Queen. I'm told is probably the floor of the deal, and then there isn't a great ceiling for his contract, but the floor it'll start at $13.667 million, which is Patrick Queen's deal.
Yep.
By the way, Patrick Queen's structure is not great. He got it when you sign with the Steelers. You get an old school structure, 1 year fully guaranteed money, and that's it with a signing bonus. So, but look, Zach Bond, one year. Phenomenal, unbelievable season. No one saw it coming. Great season, and we'll see what he gets. We'll talk more about this over the next couple of weeks, Mike. We'll learn more at the Combine. And JoshSweat, somewhere I would give him $18.3 to $20 million a year is probably what Drew Rosenhaus will be looking for. It's all about comparable contracts. He is an unrestricted free agent. And by the way, he plays the run really well. He's a good pass rusher. After taking that massive pay cut last year of 50%, Mike, or almost 50%, he's due for a big raise here. He's going to do well in free agency.
All right, we are, of course, going to keep our eye on those three guys. The offensive guys, too, Gainwell and Becton are two key free agents. Oren Burks is another guy on the defensive side of the ball to keep an eye on as well. We'll do that during football at 4 free agency, less than a month away. And, of course, the path to the draft, we'll discuss that as well here with the guys from the Inside the Birds podcast. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
And, of course, Football at 4 powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.